Hi everyone, I'm Jessica Stutzman and welcome back to the Millcreek Government Channel. Lead has long been recognized as a harmful environmental pollutant and poses severe threats to the health of children in this country. Poisoning occurs when too much lead gets into the body through the skin or from breathing, eating, or drinking the substance unknowingly. Joining us today to inform our viewers on the hazards and mitigation of lead exposure are Kelly Neville, Housing Program Coordinator, and Aaron Snippert, Director of Housing Programs for the Erie Redevelopment Authority. Thank you so much for joining me here today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us.
Well, I really appreciate you guys coming back on the show. We just did, a nice overview last time of the hazards of lead exposure, and as I mentioned before we were talking before the show started, how seriously I took that. And shortly after our show aired, I did have my daughter tested for lead exposure, and so I really hope our viewers take this as seriously as I did. And so I wanted to have you back on because this just is something we shouldn't forget about. So let's give our viewers an overview on lead and why is it harmful to our health?
Well, lead is harmful because it's a neurotoxin. It affects the entire body, but primarily it affects the brain and the central nervous system. So especially, you got a developing child who is exposed to lead dust or lead hazard in the home, and that gets into their bloodstream and eventually makes its way to their brain and affects the way that they develop over time with that constant contact with the lead.
Mm-hmm. And we mentioned kids. Are they the only ones at risk for getting an exposure to lead, or are there other groups out there?
Kids are primarily, they're the developing, person. Children under the age of 6 as their brain develops, but adults can develop it as well through the workplace or through the home as well, and renovation activities. But so it affects them, and then pregnant women are another concern that the mother will have the lead poisoning and then pass it on to the fetus prior to birth, and the child can be born with a lead level.
Oh, I see. Okay, and why are kids so susceptible? Are there certain things in our environment that maybe they touch more frequently than adults do?
Well, the kids primarily it's hand to mouth is primary intake for children. So they're smaller, they crawl around on the ground, they drop their food or their binky on the floor, they pick it up, they put it in their mouth. So they ingest it that way, and their bodies are smaller. So that amount of lead that may not affect us as adults affects them far greater.
And so what I just took away with that was the 5-second rule for the binkies, a no-go. I'm going to go wash that off. But what are the signs and symptoms of lead poisoning?
They can be irritability, developmental delays. Sometimes, they can be diagnosed with ADHD, which could potentially be part of a lead poisoning. Nervous system issues, anything like that would cause some kind of delay. If they're not progressing like any other child, when they go to the doctor, they should be tested to make sure that lead's not the cause.
Okay, and so again, we just talked about going to the doctor, but how is lead poisoning diagnosed and then treated if it is found?
Lead poisoning is diagnosed, usually they recommend that they're tested at least at 9 months, if not a year, through a finger prick initially. If that prick causes a concern from the doctor, they'll ask and request for a venous draw to determine what the actual level of lead is in the blood.
Okay, and that's again what I took so seriously. My daughter was right around 9 months to a year last time we spoke, and I'm sure the doctor would have done it anyway, to be honest. But I called my doctor right after our show, and I said my house was built right around 1950, and we do have binky drops, or we do, we were getting some things renovated in the house, like windows and whatnot, and so that really concerned me as having an infant or a toddler to have her exposed to those things. So we went to the doctor, and I think sometimes, again, those finger pricks are more brutal for the parents than the kids, but I just wanted to make sure she was okay, and thankfully she was. So I'm very, very happy now to have that peace of mind, but there are ways to, if a child does come back with high levels, it can be treated, and then we need to do some things to our house. So Kelly, I want to talk about the lead hazard control program, and this is a really exciting opportunity that you guys are able to offer families of Erie County. Yes. Aaron, is this a grant-funded program?
It is a grant through the Department of Housing and Urban Development that allows us to remediate the hazards. It's a deferred payment for landlords, and it's just a grant that is provided to owner occupants.
Mm-hmm. And how much funding was awarded?
$3 million was
Wow.
the total grant. Yep.
That's amazing to come back to Erie County and again to be able to help, really the children of Erie County and make sure, again, this problem is mitigated. So
Right.
who qualifies for the program?
Okay, so all property owners can potentially qualify. We have owner occupants, which reside at the property, and then landlords could qualify as well with their tenants. Their tenants would have to be willing to participate in the program and meet the income guidelines in order to qualify.
And what are those income guidelines?
They range. For example, a family of 4 can make up to $53,450. That's with all household members' income combined for the year.
And house renovations, they are really, really expensive. So I think that the fact that you can help provide these mitigation efforts towards homeowners who would love to do this but maybe can't afford it,
Right.
This is fantastic.
Definitely.
So tell me a little bit about the application submission, if you're interested. If someone thinks that they might have lead in their home or at least want to find out.
Okay, so if they would just give me a call, I would go over the qualifications, which are, like I said, the income guidelines. Depending if they were an owner-occupant, would determine, which application they would receive. We do require homeowners insurance. We ask that their city utilities are somewhat up to date, or working towards maybe a payment plan or something like that. And then identification, things like that. It's actually a very simple application process, and I'm always there willing to help the clients as much as they need. And then once we have a completed and approved application, we'll schedule a time to go out to the property, and either Aaron or some of our other inspectors will go out and do that initial inspection to make sure the property qualifies.
Do you know off the top of your head how prevalent this is, lead exposure or lead in our homes, how prevalent it is in Erie County?
It really depends on the property's age. There's roughly 87,000 properties in Erie County built before 78. Of course, properties built prior to 50 and really older than 1930 have a higher likelihood of having lead, roughly around about 60 to 70% chance that those contain lead-based paint. So it just really depends on the age, but if the property's anywhere before 1978, the likelihood is there that there's at least a small percentage that could test positive for lead.
And I remember, we talked a little bit about where you find lead in the home, and I went home after our show and I saw some paint chipping in our windowsill, and since then I've had all the windows redone, but I don't let Lola near the windows. I started freaking out, and I'm so thankful to have had her tested, and again, to have that peace of mind. And since then I have renovated all of the windows, but I really, really want to encourage our viewers to take you up on this opportunity and this offer. So Kelly, you're there to help them fill out the application if they have any questions or if there's confusion.
Definitely. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. They can just call me, email me, fax me, whatever's more convenient, and I can definitely walk them through the application process and help obtain those documents that are needed.
And what's the turnaround time from somebody submitting an application to finding out that they've been awarded?
Honestly, if they can get me all of the documents that I'm in need of, it literally takes about a day or two to process it.
Wow.
We'll bring them in to go over some initial paperwork, kind of to let them know how everything's going to unfold from that point forward, and then we'll set up that first visit to the property at that point.
Okay, so let's talk about how that does unfold. So somebody has applied and gotten you the documents quickly, and now they've been awarded. What are the next steps?
Well, once the application is approved, then we set up an initial inspection of the property. We'll go out, familiarize ourselves with it, and kind of get a feel for what could potentially test positive for lead. At that point, we send out our risk assessor, who will do a very comprehensive lead inspection risk assessment on the property. That includes utilizing our X-ray fluorescent instrument, our XRF gun, to test every painted surface in the property that is suspected prior to 78. So that gun, you hold it up, you read it, it'll tell us at what level there is lead in that. And then at that point, with the dust wipes and the rest of the risk assessment, we identify the hazards in the property.
Okay. Where have you seen hazards? Where are they most likely?
Most likely they're in old wood windows,
Okay.
old wood doors, exterior painted surfaces, especially on those older houses, 1950s and older. Most exterior painted surfaces, porches, porch beams, ceilings, overhangs, siding, whether it's wood or a transite material or anything like that, can have lead-based paint in it. Kitchen and bathroom walls and interior trim are good spots. Anything mainly white paint, because white lead was used in the paint, so that's high likelihood for lead. And then anywhere, like I said, kitchens and baths where there's a high moisture content is primarily inside.
Okay, Aaron, you have my wheels turning. Now I'm thinking about the porch and the outside paint. You have my wheels turning on everything else that needs to be updated in my house. So I'm gonna keep that in mind for after the show, and we're gonna have a lot of projects we need to do. For remediation, are the occupants able to remain in their home while the work is being done?
No, it is during the lead abatement process because of the strict regulations as far as the worker exposure and to the level they've got to contain their work. The occupants have to be relocated if the project goes over a day. Now, if we can go in and it's just changing a door or something, the work can be done and we can clear the unit. They can leave for the day and come back. But other than that, they would have to be relocated during the work.
Okay, and what measures are taken, specifically if you know lead is there, what measures are taken during that door renovation or that window renovation? What else has to happen to the house to make that happen?
Well, first of all, the contractor will go in, move any of the belongings or personal stuff from the area. They'll set down 6 mil plastic on the floors and cover any of the personal belongings. At that point, they utilize wet methods and HEPA vac to remove any of the items and keep the area clean during that time so that the dust doesn't spread beyond the work area.
Okay. And Kelly, for relocation, are they asked to just stay with a family member, or is there some sort of housing that's available?
They are able to stay with friends or family if that's what they choose. The grant also provides funding to put the families up in a hotel during the time construction is going, or during the time of remediation. So there's a couple of hotels that we work with in the area. There's a list that they are given during the application process to kind of review and research those hotels, and then maybe a week or two later they would give me a call and let me know which hotel they choose to stay at.
Okay, perfect. And because that would be of concern too, just you're going to be displaced for a couple of days,
Right.
and you just probably have to get the kids to school or things
Exactly.
like that. So you want to be close by.
Yes.
How do you know it is safe for the occupants to return home?
Once the work is completed, we do a clearance test on the property where we go in, and within the work area and any areas within 10 feet of the work area, we do dust wipe samples. We send those away to a lab, and they'll tell us at what level there is dust, if any, in that area. The hope is that there is no dust, they come back clean, and we can return the occupants to the property.
Okay, and has there ever been an instance where you did find contaminated dust and maybe further mitigation had to be done?
Yeah, I mean, every once in a while we do end up with a dust sample that's above the acceptable limit, and we send the contractor back in, we re-clean the property, and we test again, because we will not send a family home until we get that successful clearance.
Okay, and is there any additional information that we leave with the property owners once the job is complete?
Once the project's complete, we do provide them a post-abatement report. And in that report, it provides them all the testing that has been done, the work that has been done, and also a list of things that they should do. And any of the items that the lead wasn't removed and maybe we covered it, or we did a paint stabilization method, we go over with them, those items need to be maintained. You need to make sure that if that area becomes chipped or flaking, that has to be addressed, and that those are the areas of concern to watch over the next year, 5 years, 10 years, as long as they live in that property.
Okay, and again, this is, even if you don't meet the qualifications, I'm sure your office is very much about education. So even if you don't meet these income guidelines, your office is there to provide those or the whole community with information on lead abatement, how to do this properly, where to find maybe registered contractors who are permitted to do this. Is that correct?
That's, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
and so maintaining the work, is that difficult to do, to maintain and educate? I'm sure once you educate a contractor or the homeowner, I'm sure, again, they're very knowledgeable on the subject, but how do we reach out and educate the public in other ways?
We do a lot of events where we go out and promote the lead program. In addition to, like you said, educating the public, we have brochures, handouts, booklets of all types of information on how to protect your family from lead hazards. Obviously, like I said, we are going to promote our program very heavily at those events. But yeah, homeowners are able to call in to us if they have any questions regarding the program or just lead in general. And then our staff is always on hand to answer those questions for people.
And Kelly, as far as maybe reaching out to the public, are you guys on social media? Should people check you out on Facebook or other accounts?
Yep, we are on Facebook. It's the City of Erie Redevelopment Authority is our Facebook page. We're always doing contests, and I'm always posting tips on, whether it's just maintaining your house, keeping a healthy home, or lead hazard tips. So yeah, definitely check us out. Again, that's the City of Erie Redevelopment Authority.
Wonderful. And Erin, tell me a little bit more about contractor training.
Okay. The state of Pennsylvania, for the work that we do, all of our contractors are lead abatement certified through the state of Pennsylvania. All their workers must go through a 3-day lead worker training class on lead abatement, which goes over, safe work practices, testing as far as making sure how to clean the property and how to protect themselves as well, since they are dealing with a hazardous material. So they learn how to wear a respirator, how to wear Tyvek suit, and how to take care of the hazard in the property.
And I meant to ask this earlier, does the lead gun that you use to detect, again, high levels of lead, does that work on toys or other surfaces besides windows, doors, and walls?
Oh, absolutely. It'll work on any painted surface, any porcelain, ceramic, any type of those glazings on dishes, things like that. We've tested those items, toys that are painted or, anything like that. We can test those.
Yeah. And then have you found, again, that these plates or toys, have you found lead in them and then they had to be removed?
Yes, we have tested some items, especially furniture in properties, dressers, things like that that do contain lead-based paint. We do more of that testing during an environmental investigation for an elevated blood lead level, but we do find it and we do request that those items be removed from the home. Okay,
and tell me some strange places. Again, I just mentioned maybe plates or toys. Is there lead in anything strange that we might not think of off the top of our head?
Bathtubs. The glazing in bathtubs, the glazing of tile around fireplaces.
Okay.
A lot of the older fireplace mantles in town have ceramic tile, which the glazing contains lead, which it's not a hazard. The bathtubs aren't a hazard, and the glazing's not a hazard unless it gets broken or chipping or anything like that.
So that's what we have to look for, is chipping, paint, or things like that. And again, you mentioned toys, older toys. I think we talked last year about how I know my parents saved toys from when I was younger and want my daughter to play with them, but sometimes those older toys were made with lead.
Exactly.
Yeah, those older painted toys, and it was up until some of the early 2000s, a lot of the Thomas the Tank wooden toy trains still contain lead-based paint and were recalled. So a lot of those toy recalls, if you read into them, are because they contain lead-based paint.
Wow. And we should, and I thought I even heard some makeup had tested positive for lead. So I try to be very careful and read all of the ingredients. And again, always, I think, sign up for the little, when you get a postcard, make sure you fill that out. So if there is a recall on a toy or a particular child piece of equipment, that you can return it. But and there's a website you can go to for all of the recalls that are out there.
Right.
I just have a question for you, overarching. How, in general, can we protect our families from exposure to lead?
Overall, the biggest way to protect a family is to clean the property. If you live in a pre-78 house, make sure that there's no accumulation of dust. If there's dust on the windowsills, on the floors, just proper wet cleaning, getting that dust up, taking care of any chipping or peeling paint. If the paint is intact, the lead hazard's intact.
Okay.
So then there is no hazard. It's the impact surfaces you got to look for, but in general, the public can just protect their family through cleaning.
Okay. And is there anything else that you want to leave our viewers with today, either a takeaway message or really where to contact you and to find you guys?
Yeah, definitely if your home was built before 1978, definitely give us a call if you have any question about maybe lead being at the property. And also to keep in mind if your child has been tested and they do have an elevated blood lead level, anything greater than a 5, that would consider your application a priority. So we would get that one going right away. As soon as the application was done, we'd get right out there. It would jump, to the top of the line. So we can, I can mail in an application to clients. I can email, fax. If they want to stop in the office, that's an option too. Stopping in the office is nice because I can kind of go over everything with them quickly, so they kind of understand the forms that they're being given, and just kind of have that face-to-face interaction with them.
Wonderful. And before we leave today, without sharing any names or addresses, can you tell me a recent success story of the program?
We have a lot of success stories. A lot of times it comes down to families who just purchased a home or just had a baby, where they got this property and they were unaware. They found out from a friend, a family. We go in and we help them out, and make them feel safe that now they've got this brand new newborn or these kids in this house that they were worried was going to affect them, and their child. And we go in and take care of it. And at the end, they have a safe home for their family, and it makes everyone feel good.
Yes, I saw recently on your Facebook page a really nice thank you note from somebody. You had repainted their home. First of all, it looked beautiful, but I can just tell the appreciation by their message that they were very, very grateful for everything that you guys did for them. So I know the community really appreciates everything you're doing, and I just want to thank you again for providing this opportunity and really getting the message out there.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Viewers, again, this is such an important issue. If you have young children who, again, they're young, they're developing, and they really need to make sure that, if your home was built, right around the 1950s or 1970s, that you, again, check your child, take them to the doctor and have them tested for lead exposure, and then reach out to the Erie Redevelopment Authority. There are some income guidelines, but they are just a wealth of knowledge on how to better safeguard your home against this exposure. Thank you for tuning in to the Millcreek Government Channel, and until next time, have a great day.